It's time for the one and only, the premier, the only official podcast of ProRodeo. Your Chute Bosses are ready, so let's give it a go and talk some rodeo.
Welcome back into another exciting episode of the Chute Bosses, the official podcast of ProRodeo. Tanner Barth and Tracy Rink here with you, as we always are. And Tracy, we got an exciting show coming our way as we lead up to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. We're going to sit down and talk with 2022 PRCA World Champion Jess Pope on the backside, but also we got some other exciting things coming to your way. We'll have 8 questions with J. Tom Fisher, and just an exciting time here, Tracy. We lead up to the finals, and a lot of things going on here at the office as we try and prepare for what's a marathon in Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's the countdown to Vegas. I tell people it's a fun, it's an exciting time, but it's like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It's the same thing over and over, and it's crazy, it's fun, it's busy. And I love Vegas. I love the atmosphere of Vegas. There's nothing really like it. It's hard to explain if you've never been, and especially, when you get to see it live there at the Thomas and Mack. It's so electric. So an exciting time for us. We're busy, but this is what we signed up for.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And kind of leading into that, Tracy, we go into our ProRodeo props as we always do here on the Chute Bosses. And this one, we're going to give a shout out to all of our PRCA sponsors and partners across the country, because what they do for rodeo really makes what we do possible. It allows us to go out to Las Vegas and cover all these great events and showcase these cowboys on a large stage, and they really make this thing go around, and we couldn't do it without our sponsors and partners.
Well, sponsors fuel an association. Unless you're self-funded by a privateer, you need sponsors, and there's so many great sponsors in the Western way of life that get involved. People like Wrangler and different, Teton Ridge is involved and things like that. It's a great experience to have that type of relationship with them, and it helps out like Resist All Rookie and things like that. It just helps the cowboy, and some of those become long-lasting situations where our cowboys will work with those sponsors even way past their retirement age, and that's why it's so good to network and you learn connections. And obviously, we've had so many longtime sponsors because of the Western lifestyle, but we welcome more if they're interested in being involved, and we love the ones we have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And as you mentioned, Tracy, those sponsors allow us to increase the purses for these rodeos. They allow us to get on the Cowboy Channel and create a wider audience and allow people to come in and see what the Western lifestyle is really like. And, you've been here, 10 years now, Tracy? Mm-hmm. And you've probably seen the purse at rodeos just explode dramatically, even after COVID, when things, impacted the economy a little bit.
When I first started, if you won $55,000, you could get in the NFR as a bull rider. Pretty much guaranteed.
That's insane.
And granted, they didn't count ground money as they do now, but pretty much if you won $60,000, $65,000 in any event, you were in the NFR. Now that doesn't even get you a sniff.
Now it almost takes 100,000.
Yeah, almost 100,000 across the board would be my benchmark. If you won 100, you'd be really close. But that just tells you that there's so many big paying rodeos, and you have to go to enough rodeos. And it changes the strategy definitely, because if you're not winning enough money early, you're gonna have to go later. But the money's available now to catch up. Like guys talk about, they have like Tough Cooper, crazy into the season. And he went to 10 rodeos in 10 days, but he won $12,000.
Yeah.
It's smaller rodeos. That tells you what the purse means. So it's great that it helps these guys. It's their way of life. It's their living. Outside of a handful of guys that have super sponsors, this is what they do.
Yeah, and our sponsors and partners make that all possible. So we give a shout out to them with our ProRodeo props. We go into our short round now, Tracy, and this is just the part of the podcast where we're just going to lead up to the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. And our main talking point today here in the short round portion of it is going to be the Ram Top Gun contenders. We stay with our sponsor theme a little bit, but we go into the Ram Top Gun Award. It is where whoever wins the most in Las Vegas has a chance to take home a lot of really cool items, a voucher for a Ram Dodge pickup, and there's a lot of contenders out there this year, Tracy. The first one we got to start with probably is Stetson Wright, and that's kind of a no-brainer. He was close last year, but he was edged out by Zeke Thurston.
Right, and he can only count one event. It used to be 2 events, with Trevor won the Ram Top Gun.
Which he would win it every year.
In 2010, but Stetson would win it every year. 2 events. It's unfair, so you make it one event because 99% of the people there are on one event. And Stetson, you see what Stetson did in September, 19 of 23 bulls. So, if he rides 10 bulls, which...
$130,000 in 1 month.
Yeah, so if he rides 10 bulls, which he was very capable of last year.
He was close.
He had a couple hiccups. He rode 8 out of 10. And he'd admit he had a couple hiccups. If he rides 10 bulls, he wins the Ram Top Gun, more than likely. Barrel racers, Brittany Posey-Tanazi's had an unbelievable year. saddle bronc guys, I thought Tim O'Connell, because at some point those veterans, and a lot of it has to do with draw, but I would say more rough stock for this award, although Marcos Costa won it in 17, was the most recent tie-down guy when he won it. I would say those would be the rough stock guys because they seems to get more rhythm. And that's a great award. I mean, the voucher, the swag, all the things you get, it's just all part of the package. I mean, I know Zeke Thurston was thrilled last year when he took away all that stuff.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Also, keep an eye, maybe, as Tracy mentioned, some of those tie-down ropers, guys like Riley Webb, Shad Mayfield, they can go fast but can also do it consistently. That's going to be something to watch. And then you can never count out Haley Kinsel because she's, anytime her and sister get in the Thomas and Mack, it seems like, things just roll on.
Right.
It's just like second nature for them to go in there and, win a ton of money. I think she still holds the record, right, for the most money won
she won 270 at the NFR and Globe Life, and she didn't even run sister like 2 of the rounds just to give her rest. That's how dominant she was. She probably could have won 300,000. And to speak on your point, Kinsel's been dominant at both Thomas and Mack and at Globe Life, and once again, I know it sounds cheesy, but if you get that momentum going, and I know Sister's well rested. Haley's mentioned that she didn't run Sister into the ground to get to the NFR. She didn't qualify as high as she wanted probably, but you get your horses ready, they get this rest, you get in shape, and assuming you get healthy and great athletes get healthy, good things happen.
Yep, which should be an exciting 10 days in Las Vegas. Those are your Ram Top Gun Award contenders. We lead into our 8-question segment, Tracy, and this is a guy and a family that I feel like you've really gotten close with over the year. We're going to sit down and talk with J. Tom Fisher.
Yeah, one of the nicest guys in the world. I mean, his brother, Vin Fisher Jr., the dad, Dan, I mean, just the nicest people you meet. They'll do anything for anybody, help a cause. They do their own steer roping, the M.M. Andrews steer roping. And J-Tom, the cool thing about J-Tom last year is that the Fishers had been to the NFSR, I believe would have been 45 times up to last year. And they'd never won it. They'd been second and third numerous times. And J-Tom won it in 2022. And a very emotional time. This year he didn't have the NFSR he wanted, but you'll never meet a nicer family than the Fishers. And J-Tom, there's some interesting things he says about this because he has a sense of humor.
Let's do it. Let's sit down with J. Tom Fisher for our 8 questions.
So describe steer roping to someone who doesn't know what steer roping is.
Man, steer roping's just the oldest one, the most original events in rodeo. You gotta score them out there, rope them, trip them down, tie them up.
So what's your favorite rodeo?
My favorite rodeo is Pendleton, Oregon. It's just, there's nothing else like it. Roping on the grass is awesome, and I think about that rodeo every day of the year. One of these years I would love to win it.
Favorite horse?
My favorite horse was Big Tex. He was a paint horse of mine that I made the finals on 7 times. And he passed away a couple of years ago, and I've had some great horses since then, but my favorite horse would definitely be Big Tex.
Favorite movie?
And I got to go with Back to the Future. I mean, that was my childhood favorite movie, and it still comes on TV all the time. And I watch it like I've never seen it every time. I mean, I'm just captivated by that movie every time I watch it.
Favorite sports team?
Texas Tech Red Raiders if we're going to college. NFL, of course, the Dallas Cowboys, but since Mahomes was a Red Raider, then I'm definitely a Chiefs fan.
What TV show do you binge watch?
I still watch The Big Bang Theory almost every day. It comes on TBS, and I watched it when it was new coming out on CBS, and now that it's in syndication, I still watch The Big Bang Theory all the time.
So who plays J. Tom Fisher in a movie?
Tom Cruise, of course. I mean, you got to get the best.
What's your favorite go-to restaurant?
Man. My favorite restaurant on the road is the Stadium Bar and Grill in Spearfish, South Dakota. That's my favorite place.
And you can just tell he loves life, Tracy, and loves the sport of rodeo.
Yeah, and he's got a new baby, the whole bit. I mean, life changes for these cowboys when they get new babies, and or you get married. There's different commitments, so it's good to see a guy like J. Tom. Like I said, I know he didn't do as well as he wanted at the NFSR this year, but he's not going anywhere. They love the sport. They're key ambassadors to the sport of pro rodeo.
Yeah, that Fisher family is definitely have a legacy in the sport of rodeo. We're going to take a quick break here on the Chute Bosses. When we come back, we'll have much more coming your way. And as well, on the backside, we'll sit down and chat with Jess Pope. All that coming your way here on the Chute Bosses.
Some call it following in the footsteps. Others call it handing over the reins. But when it comes to bestowing our values to the next generation, we simply call it a way of life. Cinch, lead, don't follow.
Welcome back into the official podcast of Pro Rodeo. Tanner Barr, Tracy Rink, as we always are, joining you here for another great segment. And we're going to kick things off with our Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame Spotlight, Tracy. And this time, we've done the stock, we've done the Cowboys. Let's go to a rodeo committee because this is one of the most deserving committees there is out there. Our Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame Spotlight going to be the historic Pendleton Round-Up.
Yeah, I mean, and I'd never been there until last September. You'd been before I had, and you could just feel the vibe of that place. I mean, it's just unbelievable when the Roundup's there. They have the Expos there now, the huge finale, and it just embraces the town. I mean, it's a cool place. Pendleton's not very big.
It's not. It's a pretty small town.
And it's just it's a wonderful atmosphere. They welcome with open arms. I mean, the coolest thing about Pendleton, I mean, I guess depending on how you look at the grass. I mean, everything happens at a high school football field on the grass, and you could never imagine it with all these rough stock and horses, and it's kind of wild too because fans.
It can be really wild.
Fans have to be on their toes because things can get a little loose there. Little true Western. So me getting to go last year for the first time was a great treat. And I know you'd been as well.
Yeah, that Pendleton Roundup was inducted back in 2008. How about this, Tracy? Their first rodeo, September 1910 was their first ever rodeo.
So this hasn't been their first rodeo, is what you're saying. And they do a great job every year. I mean, like I said, when you pull into town.
Didn't you tell me you were like, it felt like the Sturgis kind of a rodeo?
It was like because there was just so many campers. Yeah, I mean, it's like a big party. I mean, and I know a lot of our rodeos are. I'm not taking away from other rodeos. But Pendleton, because we've been to our share of rodeos now, when you pull into Pendleton, it's a true rodeo atmosphere.
And it's been recognized by Cowboys. I think that what is it now? I'm trying to look to make sure. This is going to be they've won 9 times now to become the PRCA large outdoor rodeo of the year. They're up for the running again this year. Our contestants realize that as well, and fans recognize that, this is one of those rodeos that if it's on a bucket list, you got to try and go and attend it.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, I was able to go. You got to go as well, and the cool thing about the rodeo was cool, but that Extreme Bull is right across the street, so to speak. It's right next door. I mean, they had 5,000 strong. I mean, and it's
both nights.
It's just crazy. I mean, not that they wouldn't sell out, but that just tells you the lure of the rodeo, the concert, the whole thing. I mean,
and that's not even the actual rodeo,
right? And that's next door. That's just the X Bulls. I mean, and it's crazy. It's fun. It's exciting. I mean, the tents, the atmosphere, it's almost like going to a tailgate party.
Yeah.
A big tailgate party for a college football game is what it reminded me of.
No doubt about it. So there's our Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame Spotlight. We go into our Did You Know segment, Tracy, and I know you know this one, but did you know that the PRCA team roping world record of 3.3 seconds was actually set first at the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo? That arena just creates an environment that you can go fast, and sometimes you got to be really fast. And that first one happened in 2009. Chad Masters, Jade Corkle originally set that world record.
Yeah, I mean, 3.3 in team roping, that's flying. I mean, that's literally throwing as you're coming out of the chute. I mean, it's insane, and that's what Vegas does. I mean,
it does.
Especially if, say, the guy in front of him got a 3.5. And all of a sudden you think, I'm going to win the money. I'm going to go fast. And, I mean, 3.3 is phenomenal. Like I said, there's been tied several times. I know Junior and Caleb have a share of that record as well. It's just incredible, especially when you see it in person, how fast they're doing that team roping.
Yeah, if you think what 3 seconds is,
it's a true work. It's a true work of art. Those guys that do that fast, I mean, guys don't do that. I mean, you have the rancher guy that's a good roper that but 3.3 that's next level stuff.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned that Junior and Caleb had been part of that as well, but 5 other teams have also tied the record. And sometimes, Tracy, it comes down to maybe you get out of the average early, you're not in the hunt for a title, so you see maybe guys that are at the back end of the pack say, heck, we're going for the world record, we're going for broke. They want that round win of $30,000.
Right. If you have nothing to lose and you're out of the average, I mean, then you're going for 30.
Might as well.
And going for 30,000 isn't the worst thing. I mean, there's no rodeo they can go to throughout the year outside of Houston winning it and Calgary to win that kind of check in one night. And so, yeah, it's fun to see, but you can feel the vibe in the arena, like when guys go fast. Like all of a sudden, it's like watching a sprinter or watching someone do something in front of you, and it's like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? So that makes it even more exciting.
No doubt. Can't wait to see if we got any lightning fast runs in our team ropers this year. It's time for our viewer question. This one's from Lauren on Instagram. Tracy, he wants to know how many Division I X-Bulls events there are and which is the highest paying. And just last year, how about this? This thing just continues to grow. 15 Division I X-Bulls a year ago, and when this thing first started, you said, it was a pretty small amount where guys could go to. Now it's, all over the country, New Jersey down to California to Washington.
Yeah, it was like when I first started, it was pretty much stuck at 5 or 6 for the first few years, insane. And I started in 13. Yeah. Now there's 15, and now they all pay well. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, I know Ellensburg and some of these others pay extremely well, and honestly, as a bull rider, if you want to make the NFR, you have to go to them.
You almost do.
I mean, because if you don't, there's so many of them, and you can't afford it. Back in the day, you could miss those because they weren't paying as many, or there weren't as many to worry about. But now between Division I and Division II, I think there's like 80.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you're not going to go to 80, but like you need them to count if you want to win the world. I know Sage's all 7 of his world titles. I believe he won the X-Bulls title, like 5 of those.
Stetson last year, X-Bulls title.
And Stetson this year.
Won the world.
And
now
maybe
he's got
it's
a shot
year.
this year. Yeah.
But look at the position it puts Stetson in.
100%.
So, I mean, it's a huge deal. And it's great for those guys. I mean, those X-Bulls events are so exciting, and there's so much money involved and good crowds. And, I mean, it's almost like watching a mini NFR.
Yeah, and most times, if you end up winning one of these D1 events, at the very minimum, you're taking home $10,000 as the winner. At the very minimum.
Right. The minimum's probably 10 to 15 range.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's a great check. That's a great
You're
check.
Telling me, man.
Well, it's like Stetson won. Granted, he won the finale at like almost 30.
Yeah.
Then he won Pendleton like 3 days later. So, I mean, and you win like $45,000 in 2 rides.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially there was other rides, but those are the 2 that clinched it. And, I mean, look what that does to your season.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Tracy mentioned our highest paying rodeo, to finish off your question, Lauren, was the Ellensburg D1 X-Bulls, over $116,000. He mentioned Stetson wins almost 30 there, turns around, almost wins 30 in Pendleton. $50,000 won just in those 2, probably more than 50 just in those 2 events. So it definitely shows the impact that the Extreme Bulls events can make an impact and make a change in a guy's season. And that leads us into our Buck word of the day. And I don't know if Buck's going to make it out to Las Vegas or not. I sure hope they don't let him make it out to Vegas, because that guy is bound determined to end up in Clark County jail, possibly.
Going to end up either on a milk carton or an episode of Cops.
One of the 2. Let's go down to Buck. He is our Pro Rodeo word of the day.
I'm Buck, official correspondent of the Chute Bosses. I don't even know how I got in here. I'm not supposed to be in here. My word for the day is rookie. As in the first time a guy holds his card at the PRCA and it's his rookie year. There ain't no such thing as a rookie for Buck. I'm a veteran of all things, 'cause I'm Buck.
It's not about standing out. It's about fitting in. With our community, family, and friends, we stand for what's right, honoring the past and shaping the future. Celebrating beliefs and values that forged America. And if we fall short, we climb back in the saddle, because giving up isn't an option. Proud, fearless, unmatched. We are Pro Rodeo.
Welcome back into the Chute Bosses podcast. It's Tanner and Tracy here, and we got a special guest, as we talked about off the top of the show, going to be joining us here, Tracy. We're going to sit down and talk with 2022 PRCA World Champion Bareback rider Jess Pope. And, Pope obviously coming into this NFR maybe didn't have the regular season he wanted, but I'm curious to talk to him about where his head is right now headed into Vegas.
Well, I mean, there's so much money involved now that anybody can win it. I mean, there's, rounds pay 30, and we talked about this. Average pays almost 80. So, I mean, you get on a heater like Jess has. I mean, Jess has done something no one in the history of PRCA has done or has the chance to do, to win 4 averages in a row. You win averages, your chances of winning the world go way up. So it'd be interesting to see what he has to say.
And Jess is now joining us here on the Chute Bosses podcast. First of all, Jess, we just want to thank you for joining us. We know that you're busy back at home trying to get everything lined out before the NFR, but we appreciate you taking a little time to sit down and chat with us.
Yeah, I'm excited to be sitting down with you guys.
First question I have for you, Jess, is let's just go back to the 2023 Pro Rodeo regular season. You battled through a lot. Take us through what this past season was like for you to get back to Las Vegas. We know that there was a lot of hurdles for you along the way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was just really tough. I started my year off in Denver. I got on just two pretty common horses, didn't make the short round, and I felt really good. I went to Fort Worth and ended up getting hurt in the first round, had some stuff in my neck messed up, and it just seemed like that started my whole season off to just not what I had dreamed of, So I didn't win a check until Houston, and it just seemed like all year long, really, until I went to Ogden the week of that in Spanish Fork. I just kind of nickel and dimed them everywhere. I never really had the horse that I could win on, but I had something. Well, you might make last hole or second to last, and so I had to go get on them, just because that's how I make my living. But it was just slow. It took forever, and but once I started drawing them, it seemed like that week Ogden I had $10,000 weekend, and after that, it turned around and kept drawing better and better and stayed consistent, and just tried to do my job, and it worked out. But it definitely it strains on your mental game a little bit.
Well, as you get ready for the NFR, what's the mindset? I know you work out like crazy, you stay in shape. You've obviously proved you're one of the best guys at the NFR in your short history there, winning 3 averages. What's the mindset as you get ready for Vegas?
I stay really busy at home, so I take 2 months off before the NFR, and it seems like trying to get all my cows and working for everyone else done. And but the guy still has to put the effort and the time for it to make it happen. So seems like a little bit less sleep sometimes. But I just look at it as, if I've qualified for the NFR, I've gone in and proven that I can win, and that I am a great bareback rider. And so that's my goal. Is I just have to go in there and prove to myself and everyone else every time I nod my head that I am one of the best. I earned my spot here. There was nothing given to me, and one thing I always tell myself, me and my wife talk about it all the time, and everyone else, is rodeo doesn't define me, who I am as a person. So as long as I have a smile on my face and I go in there and do my job, really it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of me.
Jess, let's talk a little bit about doing your job. Tracy already mentioned it. This is an opportunity for you in rare blood, having a chance to come in and win 4 NFR average titles. Let's go back, though, to round 10 a year ago. You're setting pretty to win the average title, but you also have a chance to win the world title. You stay on that bucking horse and you accomplish a dream that you've had for a long time. Take us through what that round 10 was like Saturday night, coming into the Thomas and Mack, knowing, one horse away from getting to your ultimate goal.
Well, it only took me till about 9 o'clock in the morning to realize that I probably needed to shut my phone off. Seems like everybody I knew, we all kind of had the idea that I just had to get my horse covered, make my mark out, and I pretty well had the world won. So, yeah, I don't know, when you get about 25 text messages saying, hey, make sure you get your mark out and this, that, and the other, it kind of sends you into this whirlwind like, man, I don't need this added pressure, and luckily I had Tim. He's one of my best friends, traveling partner, and he's won 3 world titles, and he kind of helped me through it. We sat down and ate breakfast that morning, and he said, man, you just go do you. Go keep your day the same, don't do anything different. It's just another horse, and just make sure to enjoy all of it while you get the chance to. And so that's what I did. Walk into Thomas and Mack, just tried to keep everything like it was the last 29 night or 19 nights that I had been in the Thomas and Mack, and I was definitely kind of nervous when I got in there and put my rigging on my horse, but prayed and just kind of had a piece of just a piece of confidence there, but calmness as well. And then Tim, he was pretty wound up, and he got me really wound up right before I got on. I'm pretty sure he was more jacked than I was, and it was a pretty special moment. But all I can remember is nodding my head and just squeezing as hard as I could with my feet, trying to make sure I got my mark out, and then just kind of rode him from there. I didn't do anything special, and he wasn't the best one to dance with, but sure worked out. I know I was pretty well crying by the time I got off the horse because I knew what I'd done.
Sure, and what obviously you get a huge accomplishment. You win the world in the average. No one's won 4 straight averages in a row in their first 4 trips in bareback riding. So you have a chance to do something that no one in PRCA history has done. I mean, I know the history's, records are made to be broken, but is that something you would love to add your name to that no one else has done?
Oh, yeah. I mean, every day when I wake up and every time I put my hand in my rig, and I want to be the best that I can possibly be. So I try my darndest to see what happens as long as I draw good and I show up and ride. The one thing about bareback riding and in the rough stock is we're in a judged event, and it's kind of out of my control. The only thing I can control is make sure I ride every horse that I have the best, and I sure hope it works out to have 4 of them in a row, but I guess we'll wait and see.
What is it about Vegas, Jess? Is there something there that just clicks with you? Is it the the smaller, tighter arena, the big stage? What is it? Because you've obviously kind of made Vegas a second home here for you.
Just I don't know. A guy rodeos all year long, and you get about half soured up by the time it's done. You're just tired, and you're ready to go home and see your family and be with them, and then you have 2 months off, and you start working out and prepping for it, and it's the hard workouts that make you think, gosh dang, this sucks, but it's going to be worth it. And it seems like once that plane tops over where you can see the lights of Vegas and get in there, it just gives you a whole new mojo and a different energy. You're there with the 14 other best guys in the world, with the 105 best horses that we could get to be there. And I mean, you ride for big money there, and there's thousands and thousands of people that wish they could be in my shoes, when I show up there. And I can remember being a little kid when I was in high school going to the NFR to watch and thinking, man, this is where I want to be. So just sit there and just kind of very self-motivating is what it is. And I don't know, just kind of gives you a little bit extra pep in your step and bow your chest out a little bit to go try to be the best you can.
How do you mentally prepare for the marathon? I mean, because a lot of guys will go have great regular seasons and then they just almost fatigue out at the NFR. And, I know draw has things to do with it as well, but like you've been able to consistently do well there and win averages, which is very difficult, 10 rounds. How do you keep pushing that envelope to stay mentally sharp, physically sharp every round?
I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but just legit taking it one horse at a time. No matter what happens in round 1, when it comes time for round 2, that's the only thing I'm focused on. I'm not thinking about the day before. I'm not thinking about tomorrow. One thing I think that helps a lot is just kind of having the cowboy mentality of I'm going to get the job done no matter what it takes, and I don't know. I just kind of zone in and do my own deal and don't let anybody else bother me, and don't really care what anybody else thinks of me. If I do mess up, then that's on me. I'm the one that has to live with it. It ain't anybody else's problem but mine.
Yep. So now, December 7th is when things kick off in Las Vegas at the Thomas and Mack. Jess, first of all, for you, take us through what this bareback riding field looks like. A lot of young guns up at the top, guys like Keenan Hayes, Dean Thompson, Kate Saunier. But then, there's the pack of you guys right there in the middle that have won world titles, that have been there and done that. How do you think things are going to shake out? I know it's kind of impossible to try and predict the future.
I mean, there's really it's kind of hard to tell on all of us earned a spot there. We all rode excellent all year long for pretty well, October 1st to the last day of September is the season. And if you can get your way in there, then you probably have pretty good odds of winning when you get to Vegas, because you figured out how to make it there, So I think this is probably the best field of bareback riders we've ever seen, especially with all the young kids. I mean, there were 6 or 7 rookies this year that are all NFR quality. There were some that didn't make it, but were in your top 25 in the world, and they're only going to get better, and it makes everyone else want to be better. I know watching them made me want to come out and try to beat them. I feel like that's good for the sport, and I'm excited to see what happens when round 1 kicks off. So I think the bareback riding is probably going to be one of the funnest events to watch out there.
And Jess, you guys as bareback riders have kind of a unique situation where you don't get to take part in the grand entry because the grand entry is taking place and then the bareback starts. How amped up are you guys? You guys watch the grand entry, from behind the chutes. I mean, it's got to almost be like a Super Bowl, like just so much energy is going through your veins.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as they run the NFR flags in, there's 3 on each side, that kind of starts everything off. And when you're at Viva Las Vegas, it just gets your motor running and kind of makes the hair stand up on the back of your neck. But for me, that means it's time to zone in once we do the national anthem and stuff. And when they do the grand entry, I'm usually laughing at somebody because something always is happening there. I know the year that Wade Sundell got bucked off and broke his back, the camera got me laughing my butt off on the back just because it was Wade and it was Will O'Connell's horse. And I was standing right by Will and giving him heck. And then afterwards, I realized it probably wasn't near as funny as I thought it was. So, but I always try to just stay calm and find comedy in about anything I can, and kind of do a little people watch and scan the crowd and see what kind of yahoos we can find sitting up there.
You think you'll get any more O'Connell pep talks this year at the NFR, Jess?
Oh, I mean, I would assume so, and I'll do the same for him. Me and him joke all the time. We're brothers without blood, and the way we act and think, I think we're probably could have been blood almost. But I'm there for him all the time. He's there for me. This year we didn't travel together. It was me and my brother, and then he went with Cade and Cole Franks. But this coming year, I think we're going to get back in the rig some more together. But shoot, I think we talked on the phone at least 2 or 3 hours every day, just seeing how each other was doing and where we were going and what we had drawn and stuff. So.
You guys should do a commercial like WWE stuff. You're like Macho Man Savage. You guys are super intense. Like, where's that? That's like crazy stuff. That's like stuff you promote. You're like promotional video stuff, like how to make people better.
Yeah, the Iowa wrestler comes out in Tim really bad. It kind of rubbed off on me because I never wrestled or any of that in high school. I didn't even get to play sports after my freshman year. And when I started traveling with him, being around him in Marshall at college, I'd seen his intensity, and I thought, well, he's winning world titles, so I probably better try something a little bit different. Just kind of fell in naturally, I guess, after that. You're going to be who you're around.
I think it worked out pretty well for you, Jess. We really appreciate you taking time. We know that you're a busy guy and got to get out to Vegas here shortly, but we appreciate you stopping by here, chatting with us, and we wish you the best of luck in Las Vegas, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
There it is, Jess Pope, Tracy. And, we just mentioned it, just an all-around great guy, but also a heck of a competitor. And he showed that in Las Vegas, anything's possible. And you can't count out Jess Pope this year. You can never count him out.
Well, in 2020, he won the average at Arlington, and it was a freak deal. We had to move there because of COVID. And no one even expected him to win, and he won, and he almost won the world. And then he almost won the world in 21. He was, right away, just lost out to Casey. And then last year he finished the deal. So when you've had those type of experiences, anything's possible because he's done so well. In a 3-year stretch, I doubt that there's been anybody done better in bareback in the history of bareback riding in their first 3 trips. So I'm excited to see it, and it'll put pressure on those younger guys because these younger guys, especially the rookies, have never had to go 10 rounds at the NFR. So it'll be an interesting story unfolding.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he said, watch out for the bareback riding. Going to be an event we keep our eye on as well. That's going to do it for another episode of the Chute Bosses. The Wrangler National Finals Rodeo coming your way December 7th through the 16th in Las Vegas. Until we get there, keep on rodeoing.